My name is Imari Tuakli, and when is now means to me, there are no excuses, there are no reasons, there are no distractions that deserve to take me away from the life I'm trying to live. It means that my life is happening and I get to be the one in charge.
Welcome to another episode of When Is Now. This is actually a pretty interesting episode. My guest today is a speaker. He has a TEDx. It's on living with purpose. His name is Imari Tuakli. Imari and I have been friends for, I'd say, about 12 years. And we talk about this, how we met. He was also in the filmmaking industry. And this was back in Baltimore. And then he eventually moved to San Francisco and did film in San Francisco. And then his life took a turn and he went into coaching. So for the past many years, he's had a very successful coaching career and speaking career. I enjoy watching him on social media. I enjoy his talks. So when I had him on today, honestly, I thought we were going to talk about what he talks about on his TED Talk, living with purpose. But somehow I asked some question that took us down a whole nother interesting and topical road. We talk about masculine energy. We talk about ideas on feminism and gender roles. It's not a normal episode. I mean, this is a leadership podcast, and Imari is a leader, and I appreciate him bringing this up. I think it was very brave for him to bring it up. He didn't know how I was going to react. He doesn't know how you guys are going to react. So let's get into it. Then we can talk about it however you want. We can do an Instagram live, or we can talk about it in the posts on Instagram or Twitter. But let's take a listen. All right. See you guys in a minute. All right, everyone. Welcome to When Is Now. I'm Capella. Thank you for coming. News listeners, old listeners, friends of listeners. I appreciate you being here. Today, you are in for something very interesting. I'm not quite sure what we're going to get if I'm 100% honest. 100% honest. But our guest today is Imari Tuakli. Okay. And I have known Imari, I would say, I don't know, 15 years? 10 years?
Yeah.
Does this seem about
Since
right?
I was a little youngin'. Yeah.
And me too. I was a youngin' too, everyone. We were youngins together. But so we're going to learn a lot of things this hour. We're going to learn them together because although I do follow Imari very closely on social media, there's a lot going on. And so we're going to ask some questions. Hopefully that makes him a little uncomfortable and perhaps you guys a little uncomfortable.
Give it to me.
See what we get.
Give it to me.
First, though, what we need from you, Imari, is we need from you your interpretation of when is now.
Beautiful. When is now means there's no excuses. When is now means the thing that you want, the thing that you desire, you have no reason, no good excuse why it can't be turned into a process at this very moment. That's what when is now means to me. Life is now.
I love that. I not only love that, I agree with that. That's like how my interpretation of when is now is. And Jen Beatty said it in our first episode. She was like, we have the resources within us. Mm-hmm. We always think that tomorrow will be stronger, better, faster. But in actuality, we have them right now. And I have always waited for permission. Now, I don't want to say that. Let me not say that. I've not always waited for permission. I jump out there a lot more than I should, for sure. But there are times that I wait for permission. And when I say permission, I say, wait till I get this degree, or wait till I finish this process or this project or this debt, or whatever, you know what I mean? It was always sort of like this when, but it is not. It's about now.
Yeah, if you really break that down, thank you for opening up a conversation with that. If you really break that down, that's a wild concept to me. That you are waiting on somebody or something else to qualify you for the life that only you can live. That makes no sense, right? I'm waiting for somebody else to give me permission to be me. Like the moment you popped out, you were the only one who could do it. So it's either show up or make excuses. I think that's the, super macho way of saying it, but I think that should excite people. Like the idea that there is nothing I need to wait for. There's no excuse that deserves to take me away from my vision. That should be exciting. It should be inspiring.
It absolutely is. Now, I would call an Imari like a life coach, a life guru, a beam of positivity. I mean, you are out there doing it, and you're doing it for people that you're coaching, and you're doing it for people that are receptive to you and that seek you out. But you're also doing it for people that I think probably necessarily really quite believe in what you're saying, but they maybe have been told by their employers to be there or something. I don't know. Tell me about your audiences. First of all, tell everybody what you do.
Yeah. So what do I do? That's a very good question. I think everyone is either one good question or one good friend away from the life that they desire. And what do I mean that? I mean, when I say a good friend, I mean, plenty of people are like, oh my God, I want to start a business. Oh my God, I want to get in shape. And their friends, yeah, girl, you should do it. And then nothing happens.
What's that voice?
Right? Don't worry. I have a lot of voices. It's just the first one. But so a lot of people will tell their dreams to their friends, but their friends aren't dedicated to making that dream a reality, right? Like those friends aren't going to fight for that dream as hard as you should fight for it. And I think,
that's right.
First and foremost, I fight for people's dreams, and I don't let them listen to the excuses or the reasons or the distractions or the insecurities that get in the way. So a lot of times when people find me, it's because they're in a stage in their life where they know they need to make a change, right? So like, I know I need to start my business. I know I need to have better relationships. I know I need to build more confidence. And I say, okay, cool, amazing. I'm going to be right here with you every step of the way for the next 6 months, where we come up with a strategy and a plan to build that change in your life. Right. And so that's what I say with like the good friend part. But the question part is a little bit more nebulous, but I think just as important. I think a lot of times my job as a coach is to provoke a thought in you that you have never had before. And if you were to have it, you would change your life. So I'll give you an actual example so we don't stay in the abstract. I went through a really, really tough childhood, which I'm sure me and you will get into today. But there was tons of abuse, there was trauma, there was stress, there was depression, there was suicidal thoughts, there was the whole gamut, right? And if you were to lay my mind out on a table at that time and you just parsed it out to the most basic ingredients, the most basic ingredient was the belief that because I was abused, nothing I ever do will be enough. I am not enough. I suck. And I went through a personal development program where they did a bunch of different exercises, a bunch of different challenges, a bunch of different questions. But basically they asked me one big question, which is, well, if you are not the that you believe you are, what would you need to do? What kind of life would you live? And that breaks me open, right? If your excuses are not valid, even if they were traumatic, then what would you do? Who could you be? If I was looking at somebody who, taking it for example, a guy who doesn't believe that he's going to ever get lucky with women, he's never going to find a wife, and he's because I'm ugly, right? And we said, okay, if you did not believe you were an ugly dude, what kind of woman would you go after? Well, I'd go after this most nurturing and passionate, inspired firecracker of a woman. Okay, cool. Let's go find her, right? Let's create a plan and let's build the version of you that needs to exist in order to bring her into your reality. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And the irony is, I really feel like you and I, we met and our values were the same when we met. We were creators. Yep. We were kind. Yep. We were trusting. We enabled others. We collaborated. Yep. We didn't compete. We believe in positive sum games, not zero sum games. 100%. I do not need someone to lose in order for me to win. Yep. So we were always aligned, right? And we separated. Just listeners, just FYI, we're not together. We were never together, but we collaborated. We collaborated. And then we, went about our path. Cause I remember the day you told me, I'm moving to San Francisco. I remember that.
Capella,
right?
your memory is phenomenal.
So I remember you saying I moved to San Francisco, and I remember how excited I was for you. And when you went to San Francisco, you were in the game. You were in the production game. You were working for a company, right? And
yes, ma'am.
So then you just slowly moved into, maybe not slowly, maybe quickly, into this sort of, into life coaching, life giving, right? And I would always watch you. And so I want to say two things because I think it's so important. The reason why I invited you here today is because I have always thought that you were the epitome of when is now, right? So when I decided I wanted to get into the life-giving game, the coaching game, I went through the steps that society told me I had to go through, right? I went back to school. I got this degree. I did that. I did this training, that certification, this assessment, right? You didn't do none of that. You were like, I'm going to take my experiences, my intuition, right? And I'm going to do what I know I was meant to do. Right. Yeah. And I've watched you, and I always admired that because you were out there saying all the right things, and they were all based on your own experiences, your personal own intuition, your own intellect. Right. But you were saying all the right things, the same thing the academics were saying, but you were saying it from the heart. You're saying it and it's that difference between being a transactional leader and a transformational leader, know?
Yes.
And so I want to say that's one. That's the main reason why I invited you on, because I always admired that. The second reason that I invited you on that I didn't know until right now is the irony of what you just said is this. The antithesis of me doing this podcast was when I was sitting at an alumni event with my good friend, Devin Still, who is on episode 3. And he has a podcast, a very successful podcast with wife. And so this was just an idea. This podcast at the time was just an idea. And I said, Devin, what would be an interesting conversation? What happens when all of our excuses are removed, right? Because that's a scary time. So just like the example you gave me, the man that always didn't go after the women because his excuse was, I'm ugly, she would never like me. But if you remove that excuse, that's a very vulnerable time. Yeah, and what brought it up for me was, it's terrifying. What brought it up for me is when I was in school, I could defer all those expectations of what people wanted to know what I was going to do with this degree, right? I could defer everything because I was in school. I'm in school. I don't have time to talk about that. I'm in school. I don't have time. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get out of school. And then I graduated. So everybody's looking at me like, all right, bitch, you ain't in school no more. And you got this degree from Penn. What are you doing? Yep. And then that was so terrifying to me. So that was a question that really sparked this. What happens when all your excuses are removed? And I didn't even know that was part of your philosophy until you just said that. So again, just like how, So go ahead. Tell me more.
Let's be real for a second. Anytime you have a goal and you also have an excuse, there is somebody who has attained that goal who also had your excuse.
How about that?
Right?
Or
if you're
more.
Looking at
so much more.
Yeah, or worse. Yeah. There's a dude who, if we could just agree, is probably just not attractive, who has found the most beautiful girl in the world because he stepped forward and he stepped up and he wanted it enough. Right? I think you said something very important. The idea that, when you drop the excuses, you're terrified. I get that. That's very real. Like, of course, you're vulnerable. You don't have the training. This is new. It's me versus the demons, right? But what I would, instead of necessarily trying to build confidence in people and being like, yeah, you can do it. I think the best thing you can do is remind them of why, right? Yes, the demon will be terrifying, but what is on the other side of the demon that is worth it, right? For example, I gave a TEDx talk a couple of weeks ago, and sure, the idea of giving my first TEDx talk and having to memorize it and give it to these people, hundreds of people in the audience, sure, that's terrifying. But what's bigger is my desire and my commitment to communicate this message. The message was about purpose and helping people find meaning in their life. And I'm like, that's so much bigger than my fear. The vision, the desire of inspiring these people is so much bigger than the fear. So yes, you may be terrified when the excuses are dropped, but what is worth facing the fear? Does that make sense?
1,000%. And you did, again, this is a perfect example of how your intuition and your life experience is to me completely on par with the academics. We had someone on, we had Jen Beatty on episode 1, and she talks about like people and their insecurities. Like for me, I talk about how, I've been very open that up from the day I was born till about 6 months ago, I thought I was stupid. I did not think I was smart.
What?
Right? I thought it's crazy. You listen to episode 1. I mean, I knew I worked hard and I knew people liked me and I knew that I had street sense and common sense. And those 4 things can really look like smart, but I never felt like I was smart. So she dug into that a little bit and she was like, well, how I handle that is I'm not going to tell you, oh, Capella, you're a genius, because nothing is changing cognitively when someone just boosts you up. Right. She was like, I'm going to ask you questions. Like, how are you defining intelligence? And that's what you're doing. Like what you just said or what you said to that man is absolutely on par with what's going to change him cognitively.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be clear, like, I love the academics. Like even right now, the last couple of months, I've really been highly considering the idea of going back to school and getting another psychology degree, but for no other reason than I love learning and I love understanding the human mind and unlocking it, right? I don't give a shit about the degree. I don't give a shit about the credentials. I have earned my PhD in life. I was talking to somebody the other day. They found out I was 30 and they were like, what? You're 30? I'm like, yeah, I've been through the ringer. I started with Capella being a production assistant and I became a director with hundreds of millions of views. I also was depressed and I was also suicidal and I've lived so many different lives. I've become an international speaker. I'm not here to, flex. I'm just here my life is a fact. Like I've gone through the ringer because there was always something dragging me. So I know that I'm not going to tout any life lesson or idea or, philosophy if I have not lived it. Everything I speak is because I've been through some shit, I've almost died multiple times. So I know what it's like to be at the end of your life and be like, oh, what was real and what was not? And a lot of times the fear was not real.
Can we, as much as you're willing to share, understand what makes Imari and how some of this evolution, you could start from 5 or you can start from 15 or you can start from 20, whatever you want to share, because your perspective is so broad. And so, where does this come from?
So as you know, I go off of intuition. I just follow where my mind goes. So as you were asking the question, the first thing that popped into my mind is a story I've told a couple of times, but it's a story, one of my early stories with my mom. And she is a very traditional woman, a very strict disciplinarian woman, first generation immigrant, yada, yada, yada. And I remember when I was growing up, she had this thing where if she handed me something, like literally just handed me an envelope, handed me a treat, handed me juice, whatever, if I took it with my left hand, I would get slapped because to her that was disrespectful. Like from her culture, there's some ideas of that's disrespectful. So I'd get slapped. And I remember, I don't know if this is what caused it or just maybe I was always this way, but I remember as a kid just being like, something about this doesn't make sense. I remember I would look at my hands, I'd be like, what's so different about my right hand than my left hand? Is there something special about my right hand? It feels just like my left hand, but so why am I literally like in pain because of this? It doesn't make sense. And, she would talk about, well, culturally, it's more respectful to take things with your right hand. And I remember as a kid, I would start questioning, man, like how many beliefs get passed on that never get questioned or never even just get looked at? And how is that causing people pain in their life? And it's like a very, kind of trite example, but I think that was kind of the seed of my life, which is what needs to be questioned in order to create more freedom? What beliefs about myself or about the world am I just ingesting or passing along or just, going along with because culture says so, that are getting in the way of who I wish to be in this world, right? And I think that a lot of people are in that space now. We're to make it more of a macro level, like a lot of people are kind of waking up to the idea. They're like, oh, I was kind of taught the belief of go to this school, do this thing, marry this girl, get this way, pick a fence.
Yes.
And they're like, why did I fight for this?
Fulfilling.
Why did I struggle for this?
Yes.
It's not worth it, And I think that the earlier you are willing to question that which is usually unquestioned, is the sooner you can start defining your own identity and you can start forming your own world. Yeah. And look, I'm not an anarchist. I'm not out here just like tear down the system. That's so not me. But
no, that's actually my dad. But yes.
Like, I think that things don't deserve to be believed in unless they are ready and willing to be questioned. Right. Like, I remember like even growing up as a kid and being, taught, Christian values, which is great. And it supported me in a lot of ways. But then I would ask questions about God and like, nobody had any answers. And I was like, guys, it just feels like within one or two questions, like the logic of this falls apart. And I've always been somebody who wants to make things make sense.
Yes. Yes.
I have no problem jumping on a bandwagon if the people who are driving the bandwagon have tested the wheels. But I'm not going to jump on a bandwagon with some rusty wheels and, an engine that nobody's checked in 20 years. Because what if this bandwagon isn't even going the direction I wish to be in?
Okay. You're saying a lot right now that I really want to.
I'm saying a lot, yeah.
You're saying a lot. No, because I'm right there with you. I question those things. I question the most traditional things we've been taught in America, right? Or beyond it. Yeah, or beyond. I question them. And I think that a lot of people follow a certain trajectory because we have all been told that's the trajectory to happiness when not necessarily at all. And it could be anything from ideas on, like you said, religion, holidays, marriage or companionship, education for sure. This whole system was built. I mean, writer or listeners, write in if I'm wrong, but this system, this educational system, going to school at 8, getting out at 4, was built to create factory workers.
Yes,
right?
100%.
I think that, right. So we're just still following it. I mean, so I'm right there with you. Like everything that you're talking about, I'm right there with you.
I don't think anything is worth believing unless it's worth questioning or unless you're ready to question it, And I'm not saying people shouldn't work a 9 to 5. I'm not saying people shouldn't be Christian. I'm saying that if this is going to be the framework of your life, if it's going to determine your decisions, your action, what you do on this planet, then make sure you check the foundation. Make sure that it's good to go. I'm not going to drop a rusty, broken down car just because somebody told me, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I'm going to check the oil because I have goals and I have visions for my life. And I want to make sure that the vehicles that are going to get me there have been tested and are foolproof. Yeah.
So can I ask you this?
Hit me.
What would you consider right now to be your most outlandish or not accepted by society belief? Not saying that you don't believe in it, but just saying that you are in the process of kicking the wheels. You are in the process or still in the process of checking it because you're not sold on it yet.
Wow. I remember before this call, I challenged you to ask me some juicy ones. You're doing good. Just want to give you a mid-test report card. You're welcome. So over the last couple years, there has been a wave of female empowerment, which is overdue. There's been a wave of, come on, women, take the jobs. Come on, women, fight for your rights. Come on, women, let's go. Like, down with the patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that a lot of men, including myself, who love women and want to see them empowered, have quelled their masculinity so that women feel safer. And we've stepped down and we've tapped, and we've honestly, just to get right to the point, we've made ourselves soft. And as somebody who, loves emotional intelligence and desires the upbringing of the entire population, like, I love it. I'm like, yeah, women, let's go. Take the CEO role. Yeah, come on, be the boss. You've got this, right? But I myself have, for fear of becoming the caricature of the man who created the system that doesn't work, I've toned down my ambition. I've become softer in my speech, and I've tried to be more like, oh yeah, here's space for you, right? And I have felt myself, especially last year, losing who I am. I've lost some of my edge because I'm like, why am I so ambitious? That's just the patriarchy. Why am I trying to go to the gym and work out? That's me being vain, right? And I did that for a year, and I've realized that me and other men that I've talked to recently have felt lost.
Yes.
Have felt like we have compromised our desire to support women and make space for women. We've gone so far as to lose ourselves. And once I notice a problem in myself, I get to work. I don't like sitting in the knowledge and the awareness of what's not working. So I hosted my first men's retreat actually a couple of days ago, and I gathered 15 men, and we had a day of being men. And what that means was pushing ourselves and doing the ice baths. And that means having warrior competitions. And that means running up hills and difficult-ish, right? This that some people may say is toxic masculinity. And at the end of the day, it was so beautiful to see men light up again, to see them feel like kings, like warriors, and not at the expense of women, but from the space of ownership of who they are. And I think that when you ask me, what am I knocking on? What beliefs am I challenging? My belief that I'm challenging right now is that men being men is toxic, or that men being men is problematic. And it's a belief that I tried on for a little bit because I wanted to be, quote unquote woke. I wanted to, fit in with my friends. And I started to check the edges, and I started to pressure test it, and it wasn't working. Like you say, very beautiful at the beginning, you said that it's not a zero-sum game. One person doesn't have to win for one person to lose, right? We can all level up. And I think it's extremely, men or women, masculine, feminine, I don't care. To tell somebody that their ambition is wrong, I think is basically telling them that their dreams are problematic. And I would never tell anybody that. Because that's what we're here for.
I think this conversation, I thank you for bringing it, because I think it's an important conversation, and you're not alone in this at all. I actually see this a lot. I see men, I want to say your age to 45, feel very personally impacted by the feminist movement. Whereas the movement of the woman has to be a zero-sum game. You guys have to step down for women to step up. Instead of everyone just being, like you said, leveled
Everybody
up.
levels up.
And right. So I'm curious, this is not a new conversation. This is not the first time I've heard this. And even the term man be a man, right? In today's society, that term man be a man is very problematic. For many reasons.
I get it. Why a statement like man be a man can feel problematic. But if we are to ask ourselves a very important question is, how are we defining a man? Right? This weekend, when I had this men's retreat, we realized that all of us as men were seeking purpose. We were seeking a desire to feel useful. We were seeking a desire to hold ourselves to a high standard physically, mentally, emotionally. Yes, these guys were doing little gladiator battles and running up hills and doing all the cold plunges, and they were also crying. And they were also being willing to look at some of their shadows and their traumas and the dumb shit they've done in their life and own up to it. And like, for me, that is what I would say defined as a man. It's like somebody who desires to live at their edge, protect and provide, and be on purpose.
Now, I'm going to try to push us off the edge a little bit.
Okay. Save us.
I'm going to try to push us off the edge a little bit. But I think this conversation is so important because a lot of people that are very close to me that I love very much have similar ways of thinking as you. And what is important is that we all matter, right? That's a problematic statement for some people too. But we matter. Now, I think both of us agree that if that's your purpose, like if you're a man, but you are transitioning into a woman, then man be a man, it's not your purpose. So we're not talking about you.
It's irrelevant to you. Yeah.
We're talking about, or if you're a woman transitioning to man and you want to be a man as a man, we are talking to you. Like someone's current physical state is not here. It is more your purpose.
Yes. So I love that you bring that up. Let's make that super clear. If we make this a conversation around bodies and like, people are going to be problematic and it's going to miss the point. For me, let's actually, even though I kind of hate this term, let's talk about masculine energy. A woman can have masculine energy. Like that's the purpose driven, no excuses. I want to be at my best. I'm not taking excuses. That's kind of when is now energy. In my opinion, it's like Capella, you're a woman. As far as I know, you're a wonderful, beautiful, fantastic woman. And you have masculine energy when you have to be a fucking producer and get shit done. And it's because it's not time for excuses. And that's not problematic. That's balance. And I think that if we temper masculine energy and we call it problematic and we give it issues and yada, yada, then everybody suffers. Everybody misses out. Not just men or just not just women. Everybody misses out.
So I can tell you right now, we're going to get feedback on just what you just said, because why is me bossing up masculine energy?
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's so layered, right? No, I'm right here with you, Amar. I'm right here with you. It's so layered. So I don't know, is the answer everyone just get out of their head? Is the answer,
that is the answer.
If it works for you, take it. If it doesn't, leave it alone. Or is there an answer, everyone relax? You know,
that is it. Let's be very real. And I appreciate you making space for this potentially problematic conversation. I would say, even if we move outside of masculine, feminine, gender conversations, even if we talk about race, whatever, I want everybody to know, because I really believe this, that being offended is a choice. If somebody says something and there is value in it, get the value and leave the rest. But if you are seeking a moment to be pissed off, if you are seeking something to poke at, be like, well, I don't like the way that Capella said this. I don't like the way Imari, fantastic. You are losing out on what value you could attain.
You're going to enjoy this conversation. You're going to enjoy this conversation because you can find a lot of little stuff.
Yeah, you can play. Yeah. You can do that. And look, let's be super clear. I am a male identifying man on your podcast, and I am talking to you about the struggle that I feel as a man. I will let you know that when I brought up this conversation, I was terrified. Just like we talked about before.
Oh, right
when
here
you drop
today?
The excuses,
right now?
Yes, right now. 100%. I'm terrified to have this conversation, and I'm going to have it because the vision that is beyond my fear, the vision of having men and women feel empowered and have permission to be empowered, is bigger to me than the fear and the terror of having this conversation. I mean, that's the point of everything, is like, even when you feel fear, whether it's talking to the girl or having a problematic conversation, what is bigger to you than the fear? What matters to you more than the fear?
I think that, we're taking one example of 1,000 things that make somebody a person, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about this one thing. So in your men's retreat, you empowered men to be men. Just like when I go on a woman's retreat, we're going to do all kind of woman stuff. They're going to empower me to be a woman. I'm going to go home and I'm going to feel empowered. And maybe it's for me, it's empowered to go home and take care of my man. Maybe for the woman next to me, it'll empower her to go home and take care of her business. Woman on the other side of me, go home, take care of her children.
Yep.
So we're all individuals. We can, like you said, take this information. It's all data. It's all data. Take this information and continue to create who we are as individuals and what our purpose is.
Yeah. And I think that from my understanding of the context of this show, this is a growth-minded show. People are coming here because they wish to grow as humans or learn. So if that is your intention in being in this show, that's what, like, you're sifting through all the nonsense to find the thing that I can learn from, to find the place that I can grow from. That's the intention. This isn't the "How Can You Be Offended" podcast. If it is, then, I just wouldn't make an appearance there. I'm on the podcast When Is Now, as in every single person in listening to my voice right now is living a life that they have the opportunity to check in with themselves. Where am I holding myself small? Where am I not going after the thing that I want because I think I need permission, because I think I'm not good enough, because I have a fear, I have an excuse, yada, yada, yada. When is now? So take what you need from this conversation to leave the conversation and make a change, make progress, make a move, take action.
And you know what else I think is important? I mean, it's like my head is like a chessboard right now. Like I'm 4 moves ahead and I don't want to forget my moves, but I don't want to forget where I got to start from. I'm already forgetting it. Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast and you don't agree, okay, maybe you say, oh my gosh, a man's man retreat is toxic masculinity, and you don't agree. That's fine. But like you said, you're still here. You're going to learn. You're here for another perspective. Today, we're hearing Imari's perspective. Write me, and perhaps I could put someone else's perspective on next week. For listeners that don't want to dive into this, just stay with me for a minute, because Imari isn't the first man in this age range of, I'm saying 30 to 45-ish, that is feeling this, right? So it's worth talking about, because this is a thing, everyone. It's hard enough out here. Okay. It's hard enough to be a man out here. It's hard enough to be a Black man out here. It's hard out here, right? So if me as a woman, even though I may or may not agree, I care about you. I care about the men in my life. So if this is something you're feeling, we as women have a responsibility to know, whether it be mothers, wives, girlfriends, daughters. We have to know, and we have to check in with our men and their mental state. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that this is important. So this is your opinion. This is how you live your life. And we're so grateful that you're sharing it. But if it's not someone else's opinion, I truly believe that they owe it to the world to listen and check in with the people around them, the people that they love, and see if this is things that they're feeling. Because we don't want anyone feeling belittled, matter, right? Or because we're winning, or it's all about feminism now, then that means masculinity is bad. That can't be what it is. We got to be together like this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we said, it's not a zero-sum game. I think that, let me make this super clear. I'm not interested in being right. I'm not interested in everybody being like, oh, mine knows, he thinks he, I'm so uninterested in that. What I'm really interested in is conversations. That's what we're doing right now. And I think you just made a great point, is like, even if somebody disagrees with me, wonderful, fantastic. It's an invitation to you to check in with somebody in your life who maybe needs this conversation. And maybe you're right. Maybe you got the right opinion and you got to put in the show notes how wrong Imari is. Wonderful. Let's have a conversation.
Mhm.
It's funny enough, my shirt right now, I don't know if you can see it. My shirt says, ask more questions, tell less lies. Like, it's just a
Basically.
question. It's a question.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is the cost if we push the current narrative of feminism, toxic feminism, too far? That's just a question.
Toxic
And
feminism.
and tell
I
less
haven't heard
lies,
that term.
right? I just made it up. And for me, like the first part, ask more questions. Second part, tell less lies. I'm just telling the truth. I'm telling the truth of my experience of being a man who cares about women, who wishes more than anything and desires the women in his life to be empowered, that I have felt like I've compromised on my edge. And I've compromised on the things that I didn't even know made me feel like a man. For example, I recently started endurance running.
Okay.
And I'm not doing it to get fit, to be honest with you. I'm doing it because I notice that I am too comfortable in my life. My life is too convenient. I live in a world of Netflix and Postmates, and you can work from home. Like, I noticed that there was a part of me that was getting soft. The edge in me was getting soft. And so I started doing these endurance runs because I wanted to see what happens the moment when I wanted to give up. I don't care about how many miles I run. I don't care how long I run. I care about the moment where my body says, stop, this hurts. And I wanted to say, I'm okay. I've got this. And I've been doing that for a couple months now. And I feel like I tap into this like raw warrior energy in me I'm not stopping. And I think that I have friends who are, of the woke type, and they'd be like, that's toxic. And why do you have to push yourself? And life is supposed to be easy and flow and synchronicities. And I'm like, I tried that and I didn't like how I felt. I think that something that we talked about at the men's retreat is that we live in a world now where you can just chill and be convenient and be comfortable. And you can get somebody delivering you food and somebody massaging your back, and you can make all the money sitting on Zoom all day. And that's actually not.
And you can have relationships. You can meet people and have full relationships.
Exactly.
You don't have to leave your home.
You don't have to push yourself anymore. So now you have to choose to struggle in a way. You have to choose. And I think, people would say that's toxic masculinity, that's fine. But the question isn't the idea of the struggle. The question is why? Like, why put yourself through the struggle of going to the gym when you could just stay home? Why put yourself through the struggle of, instead of having a Zoom meeting, going in and looking people in their eye and rolling back your shoulders and saying, this is what we're doing? It's because there's something in you that desires to be alive again. And I think that right now we're turning the dial down a little bit too much on that. I turned the dial down too much on that. And I think that a world can exist in which men and women push themselves and meet their edge, and there's space for everybody. And we still touch in with our feminine side, and we can connect to our emotions, and we can do all these things. Like, life can be the totality of all these things.
And you can support your woman because it's not a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
Yeah. We went off on a tangent, but I'm so grateful that you brought this up because, like I said, you're not the only person talking about this. I think it is a very generational thing of men right now that feel like, I'm probably not going to say that correctly, but feel a little devalued or dismissed, or that they're supposed to be being something that they should be something else. Do you know what I mean? Maybe their natural instinct says they should, like you said, roll around in the mud, but they're told, hey, calm down, just don't do that.
Yeah.
But
they should be smaller,
this all
softer.
goes back. They should be smaller. That's good. I think that, because that's what women, I think women struggle with. Again, everyone, I'm not saying all women.
Hey, you don't have to protect yourself. Let's go.
Smaller,
like, come on.
Being smaller. Like, I would hear people say they go into a boardroom and they're around whatever, a whole group of people that maybe not look like them, and they try to make themselves a little bit smaller. And that's not what we're doing here today.
No,
that is just not
no.
what we're doing.
Man or woman, I don't care.
Yeah.
You don't have to play small in
Yeah.
life anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw a fun fact in here just to mess with everybody's minds. I've been coaching professionally for 5+ years now. A high majority of my clients are women. The majority of them are women. About 65, 70% of the people who resonate most with my message and reach out to me for support are women. Because they want to feel more in charge of their lives.
Let's go down this path a little bit. Your coaching is first purpose driven, right? Whatever your individual purpose
exactly.
is.
Yes.
But are you saying because of your personal values and how you feel about this, it does, like your coachees, do they know this side of you? Do they know this is how you feel about gender and men and masculinity, gender roles? Is this something that you integrate?
Yeah. So I want to make something very clear. I always become what is most needed in the moment. Right? So with my hyper masculine clients, I'm actually like, bro, relax. Let's get in touch with your emotions. What are you running from? Right? With my clients who maybe are playing too soft, playing too small, I turn on my masculine edge. And so people may hear me talk and think that, oh, Imari's always just talking about masculinity. It's like, no, it's just the first time you're meeting me. I'm the spectrum of the experience. My desire is to be the balance. When we go too far into the toxic feminism and what are we losing? I want to be what brings us back. And if we turn the dial too far and we go toxic masculinity and guys start being douchebag, I'm going to be the one who brings us back. I think that people need perspective, especially in their individual lives, on where they are out of balance, right? Maybe you're too out of balance with your excuses. And just like everything that comes up in life, you have an excuse. So, okay, well, now we need to balance that out with some accountability and somebody to hold you to a higher standard, right? I think me and you were talking about this masculinity thing, yada, yada, because it's just where the world is right now and where it's going. This isn't my identity. I'm not tied into the idea of go men, we all must be warriors. No, I'm just like, I see a need, so I'm filling a need. Like I said, this was actually my first men's retreat. I've hosted tons of retreats. I've hosted leadership retreats. The majority of them were women who came, right? I just noticed in my life and in the men in my life, I noticed we were missing this. So I created it because when is now, right? Now is the moment I realized that there was an issue. So I did something about it.
Yeah. And I think I kind of extended this conversation because, like I said, it's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I'm seeing a lot of, and it's not something that I have heard publicly talked about, to be quite honest, Imari. I like the men that talk to me about it is one-on-one.
Yeah.
But publicly, I don't think people are talking about this yet, but they must.
Not because it's not an issue, but because it doesn't feel safe to. And I could feel, even as me and you were conversating, we were like, oh man, we're walking along the deep end. We're good. Like there's fear in why can't we just acknowledge what we see? Why can't the conversation happen? And I think until we are willing to have the conversations that we're afraid to have, we're just going to continue suffering. And then it's going to come out really dangerously. All the men that you have in your life and I have in my life who feel disempowered, if nothing is done about that, they don't become docile, they become dangerous. And that's dangerous for all of us. I actually think that every single man that came to this retreat that I did last weekend will go out into the world and be better fathers, be better lovers to the women in their life, just be better leaders. And they now have full permission to be accepting of their whole totality of their experience, both their masculine energy and their feminine energy.
And I think what we're talking about is just whoever you are, be who you want to be, create a life of purpose.
Yeah.
And then I guess for the other side, everyone should be a little more accepting, a little more loving, a little more kind.
Yeah.
When someone establishes themselves as this is who I am, this is me walking in purpose, here I am.
Here I am. And it's not because I'm trying to walk on your toes. I'm not trying to take your space. It's because I'm trying to own mine. Because I want to be here fully. And I want to show up in a way that feels an integrity to my authenticity. And I want to help you do the same as well. Right? Like, I want us all to win.
I agree. I mean, you said a little bit like you think the men in your retreat left you and went on to home to be better husbands, boyfriends, lovers, fathers, coworkers, everything, right? Tell me some other times of other people you coached where something perhaps small or big was their excuse or holding them back. And that you saw someone with a small little, maybe just a small little adjustment or one little, like one question just really blossomed. Or have you learned something, like any kind of aha moments that you've witnessed within yourself or within a client?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a riot of a story. So obviously, all my work with my clients is confidential, so I got to be smart about how I communicate it. I once worked with a guy who lives in America, but was born in India. And he was born in a system, the caste system in India, right? Which is very much hierarchical and very much, oh, you make this amount of money, this is how much your family makes, so you are here. Like, that is it. And you are not allowed to be anything more. And it's interesting because he left India, he came over to America, and he became a very successful person in like the tech industry and the software industry. But he still had this nonsense in his mind that was infiltrating his life. Like, because he still believed that other people were better than him if they grew up with more money or whatever, then he would become like jealous and resentful of like coworkers or his boss, or whenever his boss would talk to him, he would shrink and get very small, and it was interfering with every aspect of his life. Right? And I remember I was having a conversation with him, and we were pointing out how much of his beliefs from his childhood were affecting him now, and how his mindset and his demeanor and disposition, whatever, wasn't reflective of the success that he actually had. He had a beautiful family. His wife loves him. He's, making all his money in the software industry, but in his mind, he's still the kid who grew up poor. And that's affecting him. It's becoming cancerous in a way. And I remember we were having a beautiful conversation. And at one point, I pointed out to him how wonderful his life is. And I was like, what's really stopping you from being happy? What's stopping you from being the man you wish to be? And it was funny. It's like his brain was like, it just popped. And out of his mouth, he just said, the only thing stopping me is the belief that I'm not already there. And it was wild because for the next 30 minutes, he couldn't say a word. He realized that it's very esoteric, but he realized that the only thing that was stopping him from feeling and living the life that he desired to live was the belief that he wasn't exactly who he is. And so it was completely up to him. There was nothing outside of him. There was no, oh, it's because, your boss said this to you. Nobody said anything to you. Your wife didn't leave you. You just have this belief in you that you're not worth it. And it was so like, I don't know what it was. There was something about the way we said it. There was something, but you just saw like neurons, like an entire part of his brain just light up. And he just looked at me with this dumb stare for 30 minutes. And I tried talking to him like, are you okay? What's going on? And he just wouldn't talk. He's like, and I kid you not, Capella, 30 minutes, he didn't say a word. So I just sat there for 30 minutes just looking at him as he realized that the fundamental belief underneath everything that was holding up his life right now was just like, I'm not already who I want to be.
So you're saying if he stepped outside of himself or saw him, like say through your eyes or a stranger's eyes, he was the man that he wanted to be, but he just couldn't see that?
Yeah, because he was still trapped in young, when he was living in India, I'm not cool. He, told me stories about this that happened in childhood. Like he still believed that was him. And because he still believed that was him, it's like he still was. But if he was willing to release that, everything changes. I think to ground it for people is, what is the belief that is holding up your entire identity, that if we pulled this belief out, all the nonsense would fall away. Right?
I mean, for me, Imari, it was absolutely thinking that I wasn't smart.
Yeah.
Like when I pulled that belief away, it changed everything.
Yeah. If me and you were in a coaching session, you're like, well, yeah, I'm like, I'm just not smart. I'd be like, what if you are? And then you'd have to address a reality in which you were smart. Right? It's, oh, well, if I was, then I would go back to school. Or, oh, if I was, then I would write this paper. Oh, if I was, I'd start a podcast. Oh, okay, cool. Show me the proof that you are not smart. And how are you defining smart? It's like people's beliefs. If you really look at people's beliefs and you just poke two holes in it, they fall apart very quickly. Very quickly. Like I said, my mom abused the shit out of me, right? And I grew up believing that she would only do that. A mother would only do that to a child if the child was so inherently wrong. And that child is just bad. It's just not a good kid, right? Until somebody looked at me one day and they said, what if she just did that because that's what she did? That's how she learned to raise kids. What if it had nothing to do with you? And then you're like, well, that means, well, wait, then I don't have an excuse of why I can't go live my life, right? Because if I believe I'm a piece of shit, if I believe I'm not worthy, then of course I'm not going to go after the big promotion. Of course I'm not going to go after the girl that I desire because I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that. But what if that belief is nonsense?
Telling you this, what happens when your excuses are removed was why we're here today.
Yeah.
That's because that's serious. That is serious.
Yeah. And I think that's when is now. Like everybody listening, you might not believe it. I love you. I see you. I get you. And I know that being human is difficult and it's hard and it's very seductive to believe your excuses. And I know why you would come up with them. And I can tell you that I don't buy it. Like 99% of the excuses you're coming up with, I'm like, man, they are not big enough to stop the power that is within you. It's as if Superman is like, well, I can't fly today because there's a rock in my shoe. It's bro, what are you talking about? Do you know who you are? Do you know the power that sits within you? You are a human being sitting on a rock that is floating through space on the most technologically advanced civilization that has ever existed. You are unstoppable. Nothing is worth an excuse. Nothing is worth believing in.
And I guess this is probably getting into, which it's funny because I thought that this is what we were going to talk about. But, I'm so glad we didn't because so you have a TEDx talk.
I do.
It will be out. We'll put it in the show notes, right? By the time this goes out.
Thank you.
It should be out. When's it going to be released?
Yeah, it should be out in the next 2-3 weeks.
Okay, yes. So this will be out. You guys can check it out. And it's on purpose, right? And so I kind of thought that's what we were going to talk about, Imari, because I've followed your journey and that's a lot of your journey. But you know what? Yeah. I'm so glad we didn't because why are we going to regurgitate that? That's memorialized in the TEDx, right? They can listen to that over and over again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
So and I just want to say, one more thing about the conversation today. And it could have been a conversation about anything. It could have been a conversation about anything, about religion, transgender. I don't care what the conversation was. The point is that we're a community. We're an individual surrounded by other individuals. And if it's not relevant to you, it pretty much probably is guaranteed to be relevant to somebody that you care about. And so
100%. You
need to know that this is happening. People are thinking about this and maybe even struggling with it.
Yeah.
And so listening just gives you perspective and an ability to have a conversation and ask the questions of your son or husband or father.
Yeah. And just to tie it all with a nice bow and knot is even if my beliefs are wrong, like we'll talk about the masculinity out of thing. Even if I'm wrong, how am I going to change that? How are you going to help me see it better unless I say, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling, right? I'm down to be wrong. I love being wrong. This is an opportunity for me to learn something. you know?
100%.
So I think that people want those that they disagree with to be quiet. That's not what you want at all. You want to know exactly where people are so you can support them, getting them where they want to go. That's, as a coach, that's what I'm doing, right? People have ridiculous self-limiting beliefs all the time, but I can't change those beliefs unless they tell me what they are. And then we can work together to create something bigger and better. Fun times.
Who knew, Imari Tuakli?
Yeah, there you go.
We
well
were
done.
going to go here. Thank you. Okay, one last question.
Hit me. Let's go.
One last question. So what sent us on that journey was, I said, what is some of your most controversial? What is your most controversial beliefs that you are questioning, right? So let's dial it down. You did. Let's dial it down. What are what is something a little less controversial? What's something that you might, if someone presented to you, or is a tradition that you question, like, just because we've done it for 100 years doesn't make it right. Is there anything else you want to share that might not be as heavy?
Here's something that I'll toss that might be a little bit less difficult to swallow. Actually, after the retreat, I woke up the next day and I told myself, I've been working my ass off, because I have the last 6 months. I've been grinding nonstop. I had the TED Talk, I had the retreat, I have been at capacity. And I woke up the next day and I was like, I deserve to sleep in. I should sleep in. And that's something that people believe. They're like, yeah, you do hard work, you deserve to take the vacation, you deserve to relax, And I tried. And I realized, yes, there's time and space for that. And I was like, but actually what feels the best is going after it, is finding another vision, is finding something else, another opportunity for me to grow. And I think that you don't need a vacation from a life that you really love. You don't need a vacation from purpose. That's a little, you can kick the tires on that one. And I know some people won't like that. They'll be like, oh, that's hustle culture and that's, I'm like, I personally love it, man. I love being inspired. And I'm not inspired when I'm just, chilling in bed, eating a hamburger.
All right. One last question.
Okay.
Who inspires Imari?
I'm going to say some quick names that come to my mind. Jordan Peterson inspires me more than anything because he is willing to say the things that people might not like, because he cares so much about the change that he could make if he were just to line up with truth. I think he's a living embodiment of somebody who fights for truth more than anything else. I think, just to be more problematic, I'm inspired by Elon Musk, because I think Elon lives at the edge of innovation. He sees what the world is and he's, well, what if we did this instead? So somebody who challenges norms, I think, inspires me. I was just listening to a podcast earlier today of David Goggins. David Goggins, he's an endurance runner. And he inspires me because he doesn't put up with his own excuses and he lives what he preaches. So those are 3 problematic men that I'm inspired by.
All right. Yeah. I think this is all very interesting. And I had no idea where we were going or what we were doing. And I'm so glad that we did. I'm so glad that we reconnected after 10 years. We should probably do this more often, especially since we do live fairly close. All right, Imari. Well, thank you so much. You're like, your honesty, honestly, is inspiring in and of itself. But I know that's how you just, I follow you on social media. Everyone should. It's free, Imari. And you put it all out there. So I'm actually not surprised. I'm just super, super grateful.
And I'm super honored, obviously, to be here, but also like highly respectful of you for being willing to dive in with me. Many people could have just been like, well, Imari's going off right now, and they would have backed off. But I think that the fact that you were willing to go in with me is reflective of the fact that you stand by the ethos of what the podcast is all about, which is just, let's do it now. Let's have the conversations now. Let's do the thing now. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's not pretty, even if people don't like it, even if you don't believe in yourself and you're terrified. So thank you for holding this space and being a living example of what you preach. When is now.
One thing that is very important to me, because I have a family full of them, is Black men and mental health. And it has to be something we talk about. And if they're feeling a certain way, we as women need to know. We don't have to agree. We don't, but we need to know. We need to be able to, as I said, I just put it on my Instagram the other day, we need to protect and love our men.
Yeah.
So this is just information. It's information.
Yes. You're amazing, Capella.
Right.
Thank you so much.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Mari. And I'm sure people will seek out more of you. I'm sure they'll seek out. And for those of you that aren't watching, you might want to go ahead to Free Imari on Instagram and see the face behind these ideas. So thank you, Mari. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Adios. Bye, everybody.
All right, everyone. Imari Tuakli. What do we think? I actually liked the conversation because, as I said during the podcast many times, there are many men in my life that feel this way. And it's important that I know so we can talk about this. I thought it was interesting how he talked about it's a choice to be offended. I think he said being offended is a choice. I agree with that. I also agree with you can find value in anything, even if you disagree. I liked how he welcomed people to prove him wrong. And he made it very clear he was not here to be right. This is his feeling. I particularly liked, on another note, how he talked about what happens when your excuses are removed. And I thought that was really cool. That's one of his transformational questions that he asks his clients that seem to provoke, a new trajectory or some sort of light bulb. Because as you guys all know, if you've been listening, that was pretty much the question that started this podcast when I was talking to Devin Still at the alum event at Penn. I appreciated that he was honest about holding himself small, that he felt, I think he said for a year, he was holding himself small in order not to be offensive or appear that he wasn't woke, a woke male. So there was a lot of good stuff in there. Again, you may or may not agree, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Put it in the notes, and you can go to Imari's page and talk to him about it. But I promise you, he is not alone in feeling like this. And this podcast invites new narratives. So here we are with the narrative. And it honestly took both of us by surprise. I really want to thank Imari for coming on, but being so honest. I want to ask the audience to please engage. Let me know what you think. Share it, rate it, talk to your friends about it, talk to the men in your life about it. Of course, you can follow us on social media at When Is Now Podcasts. We're on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And then I always want to thank my podcast producer, Jared Redding, and the wonderful music of Contavious Jones. So thank you again, listeners, for going on this particular ride. I think it was interesting and shook us up a little bit for mid-season. See you next week. Bye, guys.